It is the Savage Nation. It's Rock and Roll Friday. Now, since I went to Jamaica High School, because I was born in New York and have a birth certificate to prove it, and I have my mother's citizenship papers to prove that, we're going to have Donald Trump on at the bottom of the hour to talk about birth certificates and other things, and about being rich in America, and why the rich are hated by the vermin in America who are poor, and those who don't work for a living. There's nothing new under the sun. The have-nots have always wanted what the haves have attained. The have-nots who are too lazy or unlucky or whatever it is that put them on the bottom have always wanted to take from those who have succeeded through hard work. And it's no different today. Headline in the local San Francisco newspaper, the San Francisco Communical, says tax hike on rich appeals to voters. Now, of course, it's nothing but a propaganda rag put out by the lowest of the low. The paper loses about $1 million a day or a week. God knows, only know. Nobody reads it anymore. Mine was found under my doorway today, and I looked at it and I said, here we go again. And listen to the headline in this communist rag. Tax hike on rich appeals to voters. Strong bipartisan support for 1% increase poll shows. According to the poll, which was conducted by Democratic pollster Ben Tulchin, it gets better, and sponsored by the California Federation of Teachers. Now, I'm a former teacher, so it's hard for me to bash teachers. But, you know, the difference between me as a teacher and the current crop of teachers is like the difference between a Sheltie and a Collie. It's like a difference between a Mutt and Lassie. It's like a difference between a Mutt and Rin Tin Tin. These are not teachers. These are money-grubbing bums who don't want to work. They want to live like rich people without teaching the children how to read or to write or to add. And let me tell you something else. It's easy to say tax the rich, but California has the highest income tax that I know of in the country. It's now between 10 and 11% for the rich. So, of course, if you're a bum teacher who likes 12 weeks off, no one overseeing whether you're a good teacher or not, a nice fat pension at the end of the road, of course you'd like to add another 1% onto those who make more than $500,000 a year. And then when the rich leave California, which they will do in droves, why don't you lower it to those making $100,000 or more? But that would include you, the teachers, wouldn't it? What a bunch of garbage. But this is published by a newspaper that no one reads, as I say. So you take a look at who they polled. Who they polled is the California Federation of Teachers. Let me tell you something. You can straighten the budget out in the state of California without taxing the rich. Let's start by cutting off benefits to the non-citizens. Let's start by cutting out bilingual education for people who don't even belong here. How many billions would that save, Governor Brown? And now let's look at something else. As I drove into the city today to do my show, I come over the Golden Gate Bridge. Sometimes I stay in the city, sometimes I stay over the bridge. Today I wanted to be in the city. The minute you come off one of the iconic structures in America, the Golden Gate Bridge, and you come down into the Marina District, the road is broken like in a third world country. I got to tell you something. Where are the hundreds of millions of dollars that are being stolen out of the city treasury and given to the bums, the homeless, the illegal aliens, and the other bloodsuckers in this city that you can't even patch a pothole in San Francisco because the money is gone? I'll tell you something else. When an infrastructure starts to go in a city or a state or a nation, you know that the nation and the city and the state are at the end of the line. Rome was once the dominant city-state of the world, and when its infrastructure started to go, the nation itself soon fell apart thereafter. I could easily fix the streets. I could fill the potholes. Stop giving turkey sandwiches to the drug addicts in the gutter. Put them into rehabilitation centers. Get the bums off the street. Stop with the homeless services. I'll tell you something else. I drive into this beautiful city today, and I see, there's broken roads everywhere. They want to tax the rich, meaning people who work for a living. And take a guess what I see. I got to admire the San Francisco Chinese community. You know why? Because there's a place called the Unlock Senior Citizen Services. I drove by there. I saw 5 or 6 new 12-passenger vans driving the senior citizens of Chinatown around from their apartment so they can get free health care, free this care, free that care. All the vans were brand new and shiny. None of them were broken down. Their hubcaps were shiny. They were freshly washed. Where'd that money come from? Where'd the money come from for the Unlocked Senior Citizen Services? And why is it limited to people of Chinese descent, by the way? Now, it's not limited only to the Chinese, and as I say, you got to admire the San Francisco Chinese community for providing so well for their own. It's not limited to them. Take a look at every other ethnic group in San Francisco. They're cared for very, very well. And that's why the roads are broken. And that's why the potholes need filling and they're not being filled. And that's why you don't need to tax the rich. What you need to do is stop providing every imaginable service for every imaginable citizen in the United States of America. And so, therefore, as I say, if you're already paying 10.5% or 11% state income tax, there are states that charge no income tax. Florida is one. Texas is another. New Hampshire is another. Washington State is another. Tennessee is another. Where do you think the people who are driving the businesses in this state are going to go if you keep sucking them dry? You stupid morons called teachers. They're going to leave, and then who's going to be taxed? You're going to be taxed because you're going to be the only ones earning any money. But they don't see it that way. Tax the rich, say the voters. No, the voters didn't say tax the rich. It was the teachers' union who said tax the rich. 1-800-449-8255. Don't call me on any of these topics, because there's nothing you can say that I haven't said better. And now on to Libya on the Savage Nation. Libya. Doesn't the word rebels have a nice ring to it? Don't you like the word rebels that the vermin in the media use all the time? Sort of sounds like James Dean in Rebels Without a Cause. All young people who came to America, discovered dungarees and the BlackBerry, and then went back to overthrow the mean dictator Gaddafi. If only the storyline were that simple. But you see, I'm not with CNN or Fox News. The storyline is a lot more complicated than that. As we've all discovered, the, quote, rebels just got through shooting our soldiers in the back in Afghanistan. And now our idiots who run this government want to give them weapons. The morons in the defense establishment now want to provide weapons to the so-called rebels who wind up using them against our own troops. Who's running this country? How do these people wind up with so much power? Who is running and ruining this country? And if you think it's limited to the idiots in the Defense Department, you're wrong. All you got to do is listen to Senator Dianne Feinstein, one of the richest women in the world, thanks to the fact that she sits on so many powerful committees, and her husband does so much business all over the world. According to the LA Times, he benefits directly from Dianne Feinstein's committee assignments. Only in a banana republic does this occur. Now, Dianne Feinstein, who was a peacenik last week, is now saying your son, that is if your son's not from San Francisco, there are no sons here, by the way, your son in Middle America should go and get killed in order to kill Gaddafi, she said. You're not going to believe what you're about to listen to. I want you to listen to clip 2 from Dianne Feinstein, ex-peacenik.
How do we get rid of Gaddafi without putting boots on the ground?
I see only 3 ways. One is through the International Court reportedly doing an investigation. I don't know whether they can get it done and go in and arrest him.
Next.
Secondly, moving him with some incentives, I gather, to another country. And the third is meeting the same fate that Saddam Hussein met. I don't know how you solve this problem.
So she's calling to kill. Here is a Miss Peacenik liar through her teeth, phony through and through, makes me crazy, number 3, saying that they should go and assassinate Gaddafi. This is Dianne Feinstein, who 2 weeks ago was Miss Peace and Love. This is who's running America. Underneath the heart and soul of every phony liberal, there's a murder with a knife in her hand. As long as it's your son who has to go over and risk his life to murder the dictators. I'll be back.
Savage.
Mr. Secretary, could you just tell me which of those 3 provisions, a declaration of war, specific statutory authorization, or a national emergency created by an attack on the United States or its forces, were applicable in this particular situation?
It has been the view of every president since the War Powers Act was passed that the kind of action we are taking is compliant with the law.
What a liar. What a liar. We're living in a damn banana republic with liars and thieves. I'm sick of the country. I'm getting sick of this. Why is there no music? Where'd the music go? What am I, going deaf? I'll take OxyContin. I'm not Rush. And I do have a head cold, but where the music go? We have a lawless, out-of-control criminal administration at every level. How's that? Does that work for you? Here's the defense secretary being challenged by a timid little guy in the media who has the nerve to finally ask the question that the media is supposed to ask, which is, where the hell did he get the right to bomb a foreign country without the permission of the U.S. Congress? The answer is, he doesn't need the permission. This is called a dictatorship, but I guess when it has a D next to its name, hey, it's a good dictatorship. Or shall we say D stands for dictatorship? The next time you see the word D next to a politician's name, just understand that it's a big D, and it stands for big dictatorship. And they want to tax the rich, do they? Another 1% in a state that charges 10.5%? Let me tell you something. Those of us who make more than $500,000 a year worked for it. I didn't steal it from anybody. And my roads are broken. My streets are full of illegal aliens. The cafes are full of bums collecting crazy checks who don't work. Who do you think supports this state? It's people like me, and I'm not going to pay another dime. You add 1% more and I'm leaving this state. And you can take it then from the teachers who say that you should tax people like me. I worked all my life for every penny I have, and I'm not giving you another dime. The streets are broken. The streets are full of bums. The streets are full of violent people. The cops are hiding because they know if they do their job, they wind up on the docket, not the criminal. I don't blame the cops. They would do the job if you unleashed them to do the job. Spineless communists running the state and the city and the county. Spineless communists. At the end, there'll be no one left to support these bums. Nobody, except the civil servants. And then who are they going to tax? Tax hike on rich appeals to voters, says the San Francisco Communistical. Who did the poll? Democratic pollster. Sponsored by who? The California Federation of Teachers. Why don't you actually do a poll amongst those who make the livings here in the state rather than the bum teachers who don't work for a living? And why don't you actually use a real pollster instead of this creep who works for the teachers union? Because then they wouldn't publish it. And Dianne Feinstein, peacenik yesterday, now she wants to kill Gaddafi. You hear this? She wants to sanction the death of Gaddafi. She never had me fooled. I've been in the city too long. I know who this one is. I know how she became senator. I remember what she did when she was mayor. Believe me, I know what you're dealing with here. I know who Madame Defarge is. I know what Madame Defarge does. I know Madame Defarge keeps the lists. So where do you turn? You turn to yourself and your own family. Yeah, the Bible says the truth shall set you free. It'll set you free, all right. It'll set you free. Look what it did for Jesus. Oh, yeah, it'll set you free, all right. Yeah, if you live in a free country, the truth will set you free. But if you live in a dictatorship, it won't set you free. It won't set you free at all. So what do you want to talk about today? Donald Trump's on in about 10 minutes. Let's see what he has to say about taxing the rich. Let's ask him what he thinks about killing Gaddafi. By the way, ask me what I think about killing Gaddafi. Ask me, what do I think about killing Gaddafi? I say, no, don't kill Gaddafi. It's his country, not your country. Now, why do I say that if he's an all-around bad guy who 2 weeks ago hated America? Because the people who are liable to come in are worse than him, according to what I can analyze. It's the same thing with Egypt. I told you this before. Same thing with Egypt. Mubarak was a dictator, but a benign dictator. Wait till you see what you're going to have there soon. You have chaos in the gutters of Egypt now. You have bribery. You have murder. You have rape. You have a wrecked infrastructure. But the vermin in the media who cheered on the rebels in Egypt, like Anderson Cooper, who went over there and got his hair messed up and had a nervous breakdown. He had to rush back to West Hollywood to have his hairdresser redo his hair. He had a nervous breakdown, but where is he now? He doesn't dare set foot in Egypt. That bum, that West Hollywood cretin. Where is he now? Will he show you what's really going on in Egypt, that bum? None of them, none of those bums who wrecked Egypt will show you what's going on there now. They won't show you the Muslim Brotherhood rising up. They won't show you what they're going to do in Libya. Any more than they'll show you what's going on in Iraq. Oh, Saddam was an evil man. Terribly evil man. But the first Bush had it right, which was to weaken Saddam and keep him as a counterbalance to the growing power of Iran. But the second Bush had it all wrong. He killed Saddam and his sons. And what did I say in my book, Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, 3 years ago? I said it could turn out to be the greatest military disaster in history. And it was. That's right. An old Bushie committed the biggest military disaster in history, which was opening up a gigantic Shia empire running now through all the land that the ancient Iranians once had. The Persian Empire is once again because of George Bush, too. So now what? Under Obama, now we're going to see the growth of a new Muslim caliphate? Do they work for them? Do they work for the enemy? Are they playing for the opposition? I'm starting to think maybe I have it wrong. My anger is misdirected because they may actually be doing the job they were put in power to do. Wouldn't make any difference if they were not or were working for the opposition because they're performing the same tasks in either case. So there it is.